Good morning, folks. This is Brother Allen with Bible Commentary for Thinking Christians. Today, I would like to address the name Lucifer in the Old Testament in Isaiah chapter 14. Too many folks have made this a word that describes Satan, a fallen angel. But that is completely taking that word out of the context of the rest of the chapter 14, the rest of the history of Babylon, and also the history in the Bible. Let me say this. Ancient Babylon was located in modern-day Iraq. Ancient Babylon rose to dominance after throwing off the bonds of the Assyrians. The short period of the Babylonian dominance that has biblical significance is referred to as the Neo-Babylonian Empire, as Babylon had been a dominant force at an earlier time. Babylon and King Nebuchadnezzar figure prominently in the Old Testament, as it was Babylon that invaded Judah, destroyed Jerusalem, and destroyed that first temple, and carried off many of the Jews to Babylonian exile. This happened between 587 or 607 and 587 BC. These events are plainly recorded in 2 Kings chapters 17 through 25 and in 2 Chronicles chapters 32 through 36. Several of the prophets revealed that Jerusalem would fall to the Babylonians and as God's judgment on Judah for her sin. Notably, Jeremiah counseled surrender to the fall of the Babylonians as God's judgment. This is what the Lord God of Israel says. I'm about to turn your weapons of war that are in your hands, which you are using to fight the king of Babylon. In summary, the Babylonians destroyed Jerusalem, the temple, and became a symbol of God and his people. Revelation uses this imagery and symbols. So Babylon in Revelation does not refer to a revived Babylonian empire, but to a national entity that will persecute and destroy in the spirit of the Babylonians. Let's read Isaiah chapter 14, verses 1 through 22, beginning in verse 1. For the Lord will have mercy on Jacob, and will yet choose Israel, and set them in their own land, and the strangers shall be joined with them, and they shall cleave to the house of Jacob. In verse 1, we are talking about the children of Israel who were captive in Babylon. We're talking about the time that Daniel was writing the book of Daniel. We're talking about the time that there would be an end of the 70 years of captivity of Israel in Babylon. So in the first verse, we're talking about the house of Israel by the name of Jacob. In verse 2, and the people shall take them and bring them to their own place, and the house of Israel shall possess them in the land of the Lord for servants and handmaids, and they shall take them captives, whose captives they were, and they shall rule over their oppressors. And it shall come to pass in the day that the Lord shall give thee rest from thy sorrow, and from thy fear, and from the hard bondage wherein thou wast made to serve. So the Bible is describing the captivity of the Jews or Israel in Babylon. It was a time of sorrow. It was a time of hard bondage. But in verse 4, thou shalt take up this proverb, he's talking to Israel. Isaiah is talking to Israel. Thou shalt take up this proverb against the king of Babylon, and say, how hath the oppressor ceased? The golden city ceased. So Isaiah is identifying the king of Babylon in verse 4. The Lord hath broken the staff of the wicked and the scepter of the rulers. He who smote the people in wrath with a continual stroke. He that ruleth the nations in anger is persecuted, and none hindereth. The whole earth is at rest and is quiet. They break forth into singing. Yea, the fir trees rejoice at thee, and the cedars of Lebanon, saying, since thou art laid down, no feller is come up against us. Verse 9. Hell from beneath is moved for thee to meet thee at thy coming. It stirreth up the dead for thee, even all the chief ones of the earth. It has raised up from their thrones all the kings of nations. And they shall speak and say unto thee, art thou also become weak as we? Art thou become like unto us? Thy pomp is brought down to the grave, and the noise of thy viols. The worm is spread under the tree, and the worm covereth thee. Now beginning in verse 12 of chapter 14 of Isaiah, here's what it says. How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which did weaken the nations? Lucifer here is talking about the king of Babylon and how that God would destroy the Babylonian Empire, which at that time was the largest, most powerful empire in the history of the world. And he asked the question, how art thou fallen from heaven? That is not the heaven where God exists. It is the heavens. It is a symbol of his power, authority, and place in this world. 4. Thou hast said in thy heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will sit also upon the mount of the congregations in the sides of the north. King Nebuchadnezzar, the Babylonians, believed they were gods and that they could rule the whole earth forever and ever. Therefore, I will ascend into the heavens, a place of authority, and exalt my throne above the stars or the people of the earth. In verse 14 of chapter 14, I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. You see, Nebuchadnezzar was brought to knowledge of God by Daniel. Read the book of Daniel, and you will see that Nebuchadnezzar understood the God of Daniel and the Israelites. In verse 15, this is very clear. Yet thou shalt be brought down to hell, to the sides of the pit. The correct word hell in the Old Testament in this passage is the word Sheol, and it means grave. Isaiah is predicting that Nebuchadnezzar would be brought down to the grave and to the sides of the pit. The pit is in reference to the grave. They shall see thee, shall narrowly look upon thee, and consider you, Nebuchadnezzar, saying, is this the man that made the earth to tremble, that did shake the kingdoms of the earth? Verse 16 makes it very, very clear that Lucifer is a man, a human being, a biological person. And here it's questioning, is this the man that made the world as wilderness and destroyed the cities, that opened not the house of his prisoners? All the kings of the nations, even all of them, lie in glory, and everyone in his own house. But thou, Lucifer, Nebuchadnezzar, thou art cast out of thy grave like an abominable branch, and as the remnant of those that are slain, thrust through with a sword, that go down to the stones of the pit, as a carcass under thy feet. Thou shalt not be joined with them in burial, because thou hast destroyed the land, and slain the people. The seed of evildoers shall not be renowned. Prepare slaughter for the children, for the iniquity of their fathers, that they do not rise, nor possess the land, nor fill the face of the world with cities. Verse 22, Isaiah 14, verse 22. For I will rise up against them, saith the Lord of hosts. This is God speaking. I will rise up against them. Lucifer, Babylon, the people of Babylon, and cut off from Babylon thy name. He was going to cut off the name of Lucifer, the name of the king of Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar. I shall cut off from Babylon the name, the remnant, and the son, and the nephew, saith the Lord. Folks, when you take this particular passage, this particular chapter, out of the context of the Old Testament, the context of the image that King Nebuchadnezzar had in Daniel. He was the head of gold. He was the lion in Daniel's vision. So please, this is not an angel from heaven that has fallen out, rebelled against God, and walks upon the earth. It is the king of Babylon. And to say otherwise, you are being dishonest with the scriptures. I will continue in this part 2 where it says that Satan fell from heaven and drew a third of the stars or angels with him. That is in Revelation, and we will discuss that in part 2. Until then, may God bless us all.